Man, I got to tell you, I don't even want to. I almost just want to keep that on loop for a 24-hour reel and not even do a podcast. That's how good that music is. Shout out to C-Note. C-Note Matthews Jr., man. Thank you so much for this music. He's given me 3 different iterations to play, and each week we kind of shift it up. As you can see, we're back for The Last of Us. Super fans chat about the reactions of 5 and 6. I want to explain to everybody. A lot of people wrote me, guys, let me know how the audio is. I always like to make sure everything is looking good, feeling good, sounding good. We didn't do a show last week because of the Super Bowl. And I know you probably go, well, Mooch, that doesn't make any sense because they moved the show up 2 days. But it threw everybody that I was talking to who was watching the show out of whack. A lot of people were like, Mooch, I just didn't get to it over the weekend. And with the Super Bowl, I'm watching it throughout the week. So we ended up saying, I said, you know what? Let's just wait and we'll do 5 and 6 tonight. Let me introduce these guys one by one real quick. The great Jay Bari is here. Jay, great to have you here tonight to talk The Last of Us. I'm a diehard fan. You can't tell. Representing it right here.
The merch.
I just gotta say, man, shout out to Neil Druckmann and those guys, man. Just outstanding stuff. Love what we're seeing so far. But Jay, how you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Very rough couple of days, but I'm happy to be here to talk about these 2 episodes, man. We might have some interesting opinions on these 2 episodes. Probably a little disagreements here and there, but that's fine. That's life. You know what I mean?
That's all right. And actually, that's the one thing I want to say. Shout out to Persona too, who was outstanding guest on Crossfire. I noticed Persona was tweeting out after the show last night. He said, I got things I got to say about this. So shout out to Persona. But I talked to Jay, and Jay says he's got some similar feelings. So we're going to get a little bit of a difference. I love a curveball on a show like this. So I'm looking forward to what you got to say, Jay. But the great Noof Nukem, and Noof, you and Dark are muted still. I just want you to let you guys know. The great StreamYard lets me know. Newtonian says, Mooch, where'd you get that hat? Believe it or not, I got it right from Rockstar. I went to the Rockstar website. They've got their own merch there, and I picked up a Rockstar hat. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just figured, man, it looked good to me, so I picked it up. But Noof, how you doing tonight, buddy? Great to have you on the show as well, a returning guest on The Last of Us Reactions. How are you this evening?
Boom, boom, kaboom. I'm in the room, baby. First time since episode 1 discussion. So, yeah, it's good to be back. Had the day off, so I thought, hey, saw the bat signal go out and figured, why not? Let's jump in. And having 2 episodes to talk about, there should be plenty to go around. Show's been great so far. Let's get right to it. And it's good to be here with Jay and Dark as well. It's going to be a good show.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, the great Dark Optimus, you guys might know him as Dark Goldblum on Crossfire. Goldblum, welcome to the show, buddy. Great to have you on as well, and I appreciate it with short notice. It's just good to have you on the show. We've actually been planning this for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we have, dude.
That unbelievable DM. It's like, are you still here for tonight? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Great to have you here, Dark.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here, man. That intro was fire, by the way.
Thank you.
That was an awesome intro. This is gonna be a good show, man. I can't wait to talk about The Last of Us, man. I've been hankering to talk about it because as what I do for a living, it's been one of those things where I'm like, I want to say something, but it's hard to say it on Twitter because it's like you only have a certain amount of characters and stuff like that. But
true, very true. Well, now you can
now.
Well, yeah, you can go to, but it's 4,000 characters now. I think you can really let it out. There you go.
No, it's whack. Listen. What's his name again? Elon Musk.
Elon, yeah.
Knock it off, bro. Knock it off. 4,000 characters sounds good and dandy, but you're the only one that can see it.
Right.
It's true. It's true. That being said, so I want to start with episode 5, guys. And while the audience kind of shuffles in, please, guys, do tweet it out. Hit the like button. I see the great Jay Bari, Mooch Maniac family member, says, guys, hit the like button. And who the hell's yelling? This guy. Please let everybody know that we are live. Like I said, it's a small show we do, and I love to do it. It's just, I get so excited about every Sunday night that we get to enjoy this show. I can't believe my favorite video game became a favorite TV show. It's crazy. But let's start with episode 5. Now, 5 literally comes into, I think, a fan favorite category. I mean, we got the bloater. We saw a lot of similarities to the game again. I'm gonna start with Noof. Noof, I'll start with on this one because I know when we get to episode 6, I have a feeling Jay's gonna take the mic. I don't know if we'll get it back, so I gotta be real with you. Episode 5, real quick. I've said this, okay? Kathleen, that was in episode 4. I wasn't really a fan of that character. Right. I think even up to the very end, there were certain things about how she handled her squad and how she handled everything. I mean, she put her vendetta as the first and foremost to find Henry And even after I found out what she was upset that Henry did, if I had a hard time understanding how anybody who could be a leader with that many people behind them would be okay with just this vendetta and not actually caring about food, resources, housing, anything, even getting medicine. So, I mean, when you see the Kathleen character, which was played by Melanie Linsky, I hope I'm saying it right, I wasn't a massive fan. I thought Perry, who was played by Jeffrey Pierce, who was the original voice, of course, of Tommy from the video game, I thought he was absolutely stellar. I could see him getting what do they call it there?
Emmy?
An Emmy, but in the what do they call it? Assisting actor? I don't know what
right.
Yeah, it's
Dark, you know what it is.
supporting actor.
Supporting actor. Thank you so much. But Noof, what did you think of
almost forgot.
I did too. It's been a while since I watched the Emmys.
First of all, let me just say episode 5, in my opinion, was the best episode of this series since episode 1, in my opinion. Okay. Everybody's gonna have a different take on that. But I mean, this episode had a little bit of everything in it. It got back to sort of the action, a little more suspense. Yes, her character kind of was definitely a little, and I guess, you have to, I think sometimes when you're watching shows that are deep like this, you have to put yourself almost in the shoes of the character. Like, what would you do, or how would you feel? Because, the world is not exactly the one that they've known or they grew up in. It's drastically changed. Trust is probably one of the things that's the biggest and hardest to come by commodity. Is trusting people. You see lots of backstabbing. You see a lot of people out with their own personal vendettas or their own personal, quest for power, which obviously, would probably be kind of prevalent if we lived in a lawless society where you had a small group of people trying to, not be governed and not be ruled by anyone, just, undertake their own means and methods. She definitely had it out for Henry. I mean, obviously it stung her deep. I didn't like her character. I was actually kind of shocked she was, that she met her demise, but it was very fitting the way it all boiled down. At the end of the day, because essentially, they kind of knew something was up, when they preluded to the basement scene in episode 4.
Yeah.
So it kind of came full circle. It was very intense. The last part of that show, Joel up in the perch, and it reminded me again, remember the game part was very similar. There was a scene like that, remember, in the game where you had to get the sniper and you had to kind of fend off. Was it Ellie in the game where you're fending them off? They're going through the streets and you're basically picking people off. It kind of reminded me of that scene. I mean, they're not playing it out scene by scene per se, but there's a lot of the way the whole show has been done is it draws in so many similarities from the actual game itself, which are really cool. And it's also cool to watch the episode knowing that some of this stuff was built in like a cul-de-sac up here in Alberta. They did a lot of filming sequences here, which are pretty cool. Some of those places I've actually been, in years past, so they're recognizable, at least to a certain degree. But man, what can I say? Like, her character sucked, but I really loved the introduction of Henry. What was his brother's name? Sam, yes, I really love Sam. We'll talk about that a little bit more. I guess their characters as we get into episode. I guess this was their big episode, because episode 6, we kind of know how that played out. But I love those two characters. My God, heartbreaking is the way to put it. We knew it was coming. If you're a fan of the game, you kind of knew this how it was going to play out. But it's still, it really just. It really gets you. You know what I mean?
Well, they did.
He was a great,
If they did, it's funny you brought it up, and this is the topic I kind of want to circulate throughout the evening tonight, is how they've managed to keep true to the game, but they have somewhat stepped off from it, right? A bit. Now, we saw that when Ellie and Sam were hanging out in that last scene. Similar ending, very similar ending, very different lead up, right?
Yes.
Ellie cut her hand. She's thinking she has no faith in where she's even going to. She thinks the doctor, which we find out later on in episode 6. I'm kind of blending a bit here, but they really do go hand in hand. She even says to Joel in 6, I don't feel this is really going to work out. She took the blood off of her hand, rubbed it on his wound, thinking her blood is the elixir. And it's not. So, Dark, when you saw that kind of change, was that a difference of enough? How do you think, from a gamer standpoint, do you feel like the gaming community is taking these subtle changes that are kind of transpiring different on the Hollywood screen?
Well, for me, like, from a gamer standpoint, I'm like, God damn it, they could have done they could have done so much more, man. They were just like, oh God, like they some things I was like, man, they ruined this or they did this, from a gamer standpoint, because I love the game so much, and it's hard to see, the compare, it's hard to compare the two because it's like it's going to be different from the game, from the film standpoint. I'm more like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's probably more than likely it has to do with budget or it has to do with just timing for the show. Honestly, I think with episode 5, I think they really tried to incorporate a lot of you know their bigger budget stuff in it, like with the clickers and the bloater, and then you see this massive horde of you know the mushroom zombie people,
Infected, yes.
yeah, the infected. So, it was cool. It was really cool to see that. But then, like I felt like you, Mooch. I felt like the character. What's her name? I forgot her name. I already see she's not even significant enough for
Kathleen.
me to even remember her name. Kathleen.
Yeah.
I thought the guy who played the voice of Tommy in the original would have been a better fit for that
Yes.
leader role than
Yes.
she was. It's not that I didn't like her, I thought she did a fantastic job. She's a great actress. She really is. She truly is. It was just, gamer in me was just like, oh, that would have been so much cooler, if they would have done something like that, or if they were really going after Sam, why was it just didn't make any sense for them to go after Henry, like really, it was just like, okay,
A waste of resources.
yeah, it's like he killed your brother, like, well, not really, because like he didn't really kill him. He like set him up basically, it's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, what do you expect, during that time, especially if you're in an apocalypse like that, you're gonna definitely do things that you wouldn't do as a normal human being. So it was just, there was a lot of things that I was just like, ugh, man, that could have been better. But the whole Sam and Henry, where they were, just from the beginning, like, I felt like those two actors were great. I thought, the boy, especially who played Sam, was just like, I thought that was perfect that they got somebody who was deaf to play the character, even though Sam is a voiced character in the game. Yes. I thought that was really cool that they did something outside of that where they made him a deaf character instead.
I also enjoyed that. Yeah, and the reason is I said this 2 weeks ago. Okay, when we got introduced, Sam being deaf is a huge. It's a story point. Again, it's a lot of things that I think that they're doing right in the show. And Jay, this is going to kind of lead into you a bit here. I got to be honest with you. The few things that Dark brought up that were really good points were, I think Sam and Henry alone, now that we know they had that backstory where Sam got sick, he had leukemia. Guys, correct me if some of my
he had
right, he had that, but like, and then there was Henry, and there was the whole thing where he built his reputation up in that group, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, like Jay, the one thing I want to say that Dark was alluding to is, it seems like sometimes they're ending the stories of these beloved characters a little too fast. And I've seen a couple critics now say that they feel like they're moving too quick and that they just want to get to part 2 so bad. And I'm like, but you have the characters, you have an audience that wants to know more about these people. And you just, they get introduced, and 59 minutes later, they're gone. So Jay, what did you think about that whole aspect? And then the last thing I'll throw at you, because I'm a big Walking Dead fan, you guys know, I thought when that truck submerged down, when it blew up, submerged down, they found out that that's where they basically put all of the dead, if you would, or the infected underground. When you saw not only the bloater come up, the bloater, sure,
yeah, that's cool, but
the hundreds, maybe 1,000 plus infected that came out of there in the World War Z fashion, where I don't care what kind of you got, Jay, you're not hitting and picking all of them off. I thought that was done beautifully, and it showed the emphasis on how lethal the outside world is. But Jay, what did you think about the whole thing overall for 5?
Yeah, man. Mooch, can I speak from the heart, man?
Please.
I hate to do like these stories where you got people got to tell their whole life story just to set up what they're trying to say. But I just want to clarify and say that I'm a big Last of Us fan. Okay,
Yeah.
And I do like the show, but as somebody that plays the game, I got to speak from the heart.
Please
okay?
do. Yes.
Episode 5. Just in general, when it comes to the show. I feel like they are relying on the knowledge of the gamer to carry the show, but they don't want to hit those certain story beats or scenes that the game offered. It's complexing to me that they're speeding through the show very, very fast because they know people know the story beats because they play the game.
Right.
But meanwhile, they're trying to get a new audience, like the new people that didn't watch the show, you know what I mean, with all these new parts and all these not one-to-ones. And that thing is going too fast for them to even understand character development.
Yes.
But let me break something down, man. I felt like episode 5 is probably the second best episode in this so far, in my opinion.
Okay.
I felt like episode 2 nailed
that was my favorite
the ambiance as far as what The Last of Us is and what it has to offer. I feel like the fear of the whole infected, it's not that prevalent with this show. I'm sorry. You got dudes walking through a whole sewer. Not one infected.
Not one.
Okay. But all of a sudden they just lumped up in this one section that blew up.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
This man walked through the whole city in a sewer, knowing that they're trying to set up that whole sewer scene in the game.
Yes.
And not one infected. I feel like when it comes to this show, all of the stuff like gameplay portions of the show, I mean the game that helps also set up character development, they're missing. That's why we're not really too attached with these characters, because you're just skipping. Meanwhile, so the survival aspect of The Last of Us helps build the character development. But every single action scene is just 2 seconds, blank off to the next screen. Let me fade to black, gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's missing that oomph that The Last of Us can give you in those big survival moments. You know what I mean? There's no way you're walking with Henry, you're walking with Ellie, you're walking with Sam, you have with Joel, and then you not come across no clicker, no infected, nobody in that goddamn sewer, just to build a heartfelt moment. You know what I mean? Oh, look, this playroom. All right, but in the game, the knowledge that you want us to that you're relying on, that people's watching it, totally different story. You know what I mean? It's a lot of conflicting stuff.
I thought we were going to see some sort of engagement when they were in the sewer there.
There's no engagement. There's no engagement. Even when it comes to this whole, when they're in the survival aspect as far as them in the forest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no goddamn clickers in this forest. Like, yo, you lose. Everybody keep bringing up the whole fear of the infected in this goddamn TV show. But I don't sense it. Even with the whole 100 of people, clickers, swarm of people there, I didn't feel that fear like I did in episode 2, because episode 2, the journey throughout its entirety was them fearful as far as how they want to approach getting across to where they got to get across to. Now you just had episode 3, you had episode 4, you had episode 5, where they're just whimsically walking wherever they got to go to, and there's no infected.
Yeah, none.
It's like a Telltale game, right? It's kind of like that.
It's surprising.
That's kind of how it plays out. Yeah.
But overall, I feel like the episode was pretty strong. They did tug on the heartstrings, with the heartfelt moments, which is great. But I gotta agree with BG. I gotta agree with a lot of people. I'm sick of this. Is HBO, man. This is HBO. You have many other shows where you are showing more gruesome stuff. But even with Kathleen dying, you gotta switch the screen. What are we doing? You want us to hate this character? She had this grudge against Henry because Henry is pretty much one of those snitches they use. The Fedra use those people to get information, and they give them things in hand. What he had to do, I think he he needed to get medication for Sam. So they snitch and ratted out the brother. Kathleen was upset about that. Blah, 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 right? But the whole setup from episode 4 to 5 is just like, this character, she's not a beloved light character. She has this grudge. She don't give a damn about her people. She wants to get her revenge on Henry, don't matter the cost. So even as the viewer, we're watching like, oh man, I can't wait for this girl to get it or this person to get it. And when she gets it,
it's unsatisfying. Yeah.
You gotta get camera. What is going on? HBO, what are we doing, baby? What are we doing?
I do agree with you. I thought with this being HBO, and we said this a few weeks ago on this show, I thought we were going to see something more gruesome. I really did. And for some reason, it's not even. So we're still talking about episode 5. So let's talk about this. When the bloater comes out and does get a hold of Perry, who is Jeffrey Pierce, you can see it if you're paying attention 6 miles in the background, but he literally does do the same animation that happens to you with a bloater when he gets a hold of you in the game. He basically grabs his mouth, right? And then it looks like he removes his head or from his shoulder, right from his body. So you see that, but like Jay said, so far I've seen more gruesome activity in the post-apocalyptic world from AMC.
The human to human interactions, they're skipping those. Like the infected, the clickers, whatever. I felt like so far I haven't felt that survival element of fear when it comes to these infected, like episode 2. Episode 2 with those 2 clickers, they were, you felt like you was in the game. They were sneaking, the glass was cracking and the clickers all like, yeah, I get that feeling of the game. So far they haven't hit that in these past episodes, and I feel like they're adding on more story elements to a lot of these characters. But it is going too far. It is going too fast. You know what I mean? Like, damn, you want the whole first game in just 12 episodes? How many episodes are they doing?
9.
I feel like it should
10.
be 10 episodes. I feel like it needs to settle down a little bit, build these characters up, because you're going for those heartful moments and things like that. You're trying to build up these character developments in 1 or 2 episodes. And then all of a sudden it's just like, we don't really give a damn. You know what I mean? I feel like they could stretch it out a little bit more. Not to go overboard 20 episodes and all that bullshit, but to stretch it out a little bit more. They're going way too fast.
And to a certain
I felt like they could do 2 seasons with this game alone. Like they could have done 2 seasons for sure. Or 1.5 seasons.
Go ahead, Noob.
And sometimes, I gotta agree with you. Just like sometimes less is more. Like if you look at episode 2, right, just the way that they did the clickers, right? Small confined spaces with very deadly enemies.
Yes.
Like that was more intense than seeing hundreds of, like you said, World War Z kind of things. And even with the Aliens movies, you look at the first couple Aliens movies were better than the newer ones because there was less aliens, but it was more, again, confined space, a little bit of that stalking, a little bit of that horror. Right. They got to make sure that they don't kind of get away from a little bit of that feeling, right? That's one thing they got to watch. Make the encounters a little more meaningful, because like if you even look at it, if I recall correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't our first bloater encounter in the first game? Wasn't it when we went into inside the facility? You're in the power plant or whatever it was, and you're in the basement?
No, it was in the school in Billstown.
In the gym,
in the gym. Right? Yeah, that was the first time, right?
That ain't Bill though. That's Willie. That's William. That's not Bill that we know.
Right.
I don't know what.
Well, see, I even missed that because when they did the whole introduction to Bill through the backstory, like I was missing that part too, because I wanted to see like Joel and Ellie navigate like sort of a town that wasn't just filled with clickers and stuff. I wanted to see him like navigate booby traps and that sort of stuff too, because you remember that scene leading up to getting to Bill, like you had to avoid all the tripwires and the improvised bombs and different things, and they didn't do any of that sort of stuff too. And I wanted to see that. We didn't get it. Like I said, I know shows are totally different. They're on a much stricter time frame. They're also on a massive budget. There's a lot of things about TV that kind of dictate where the material goes, unfortunately. And the thing is, when you do have a TV series, and this is the thing that's always cognizant to remember is, again, like I said, you don't want to go too fast because you don't see enough characters. You don't really want to go too slow either. It's always that fine line. It is important to build characters in visual television, because again, a lot of the people watching the show don't have backstories like we do, like us gamers do. They don't get into the lore. They haven't read books. They haven't played the games. They're just filling in the cracks, and we're kind of like, we're judging everything because we already have the pre-based material. So it's very for them, it's got to be very difficult. But like I said, so far I think they managed it pretty well. I think yes, you could have kept those characters around a bit longer and dragged it out a little bit more. But again, like I said, until you're a part of the production team and you got these massive budgets and you've got to find all these locations and you've got to build sets and everything else to go along with it, it's a little easier to sit back and be critical on our side.
Listen, I agree 100%. And I understand that it's not going to be a 1-to-1, but I just feel like they like I said, they are relying a lot on the actual gamer that played the game to know certain things, but not really delivering on those certain things. Like they have a little, Easter eggs here and there, which I appreciate, especially like in episode 5 and episode 6. I appreciate those things, but really and truly, I'll be honest with you, like I love the show. I'm not even kidding. I really love the show.
I do.
But I like the story beats of the video game much more. And maybe that's because I'm more we've been playing it for years and whatnot. Yeah. But it just makes more sense as we go further along. It makes more sense because you wasted a lot of time with a lot of these episodes. Like Bill, I understand what they're trying to do with Bill and Frank, but yeah, getting those backstories, but having both of them dead.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what we doing now?
So
they're focusing. Go ahead, Mooch.
No, my only point was just episode 3. I'll say this real quick and I'll pass the mic to you, Dark. Jay makes a good point. They put the emphasis on really building up the Bill and Frank, the characters, the relationship, and then it's over. And I mean, and the other thing I want to kind of make a point to real quick, and then Dark, take the microphone, is Noof. The one thing you said, though, I got to agree with Gaming with Persona. He said, I think the episode should have been longer. Each episode should be roughly 90 minutes. And I'm paraphrasing for him. I'm saying, but 90 minutes. There's a lot of story to be told here. So, Noof, when you say budget and time, the thing about it is that this is HBO. The budget, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, but if you remember Game of Thrones, though, look at the progression there too. I mean, the first season is always that misdemeanor. That's the one where you curse, you're going to get a preset budget and you kind of got to try to make everything work within it. But until you know that the show is going to be a bona fide hit, which now they do, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, I expect the budget for season 2 will be massively, massively bigger and probably continue. We saw that with Game of Thrones too, how they just extended. The episodes got a bit longer as the season went on. But again, we lost a few episodes at the end, but I think they're probably going to start doing something similar here.
Yeah, they're just focusing too much on story than they are focusing on what really drew gamers into the game, right? Which was the combat, the action, there was still story. I mean, we love the story. You wouldn't play the game if you didn't love the story, or you wouldn't be in love with the game if you didn't love the story. But I feel like they're focusing way too much on rushing it and then focusing on a lot of story beats to fill in certain things that were going on in the world of The Last of Us. And there's times where I'm sitting there, I'm all like, that didn't happen in the game. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, well, they probably were thinking like, we only have this amount of budget. And this is like Neil Druckmann's first, TV show. This isn't, he hasn't done any movies or anything like that, so this is his first TV show, so he's still kind of learning the ropes. But I do think that they could have really, like even just with that whole tunnel scene, like you were talking about, Jay, with the whole tunnel scene of them having clickers in it, it would have made it so much freaking more cooler, right? Like
this world,
exactly, showing some fear in this world would be so great. That's why episode 2 is such a fantastic.
They had 3 moments. Episode. They had 3 moments where they slept out in the wilderness in camp, and nothing happened.
Right, exactly. It was ridiculous. I was like,
what I mean?
I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, there's no reason.
Not even an animal
to have that, and then no animal, no clicker, no anything, no humans coming to take their encampment or whatever. None of that. So it's just like,
there's a few people. There's a few people in the
there's
chat
so much they could do.
There's a few people in the chat that don't agree with what we're saying about it being rushed. Shout out to Dribble and shout out to, I believe it's also Jack. Shout out to Jack Reeves. They're saying they don't feel it's rushed at all. They're saying, as a matter of fact, we're actually getting more story in the show, which we are.
Yeah,
Dribble, that's
not.
true.
Absolutely not. I don't agree.
But why are you building up a character with story, and then it's just poof, it's gone? And I mean,
there's no way somebody can say that, especially after watching episode 6. No way in good faith you're saying that they're not rushing this goddamn show, and you sit down there and you watch episode 6 and you said that. You are tripping, especially if you play the game. You are wilding.
Well, let's get into 6 then. Jay, let's get into 6 for a bit here, because we can always come back. I think 5 and 6, especially how 5 ends and 6 picks up. There's a lot going on there. So Jay, let me start with you with episode 6. Where are you right now on the overall episode itself as far as your enjoyment when I'm watching it? And then how far is it where it maybe crossed the line the wrong way maybe with you?
Yeah, I mean, episode 6, I'm giving it like a 7. Like I said, there's a lot of things that I like in the episode, but yeah, you are rushing through this whole damn show. Like, yeah, people miscues the actual gameplay portion of The Last of Us, but yeah, the gameplay portion also have a lot of story elements. It's also building character development. It's also building, relationship between these characters, because yes, it's a survival game. The TV show is a horror survival show. You know what I mean? And we're not seeing any type of real survivor stuff. Yeah, I'm not saying that you have to have one-to-one with the game, but yeah, we still want to see some of that elements like episode 2. You teased us. You're giving me blue balls. You know what I mean? When it comes to the whole infected and survival part, because you showed it in 2, and then now you're not for 4 episodes. Y'all okay with that not being shown?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, but overall, I think the episode was cool. But yeah, I kind of want to see a little bit more of that interaction with Ellie and Joel surviving, getting through where they got to get to. Like, yeah, we see them going to sleep, and Joel, for some strange reason, is shaking up and he falling asleep or whatnot. But I want to see that in a walk around, talk, have probably raiders or infected coming at you, because that is a part of what The Last of Us is.
So so Forget Me Not here, and I'll put it up on screen. He says here, Forget Me Not says, how did they rush episode 6? The university section was like the shortest part of the game. But
Absolutely
Jay just said it. So
Absolutely
why is it when they had Tommy's let's just say village, it's because it was a village, it was much more pronounced, right, than it was in the game.
Well, it was Jackson. Instead of them putting him in the dam, they put him in Jackson instead.
Right.
So it was like, for me, that right there was like, oh man, it would have been so cool to see the dam, like them running the dam, and then them getting attacked by David's crew, like getting attacked there. That would have been awesome, to see that.
That's in part what Jay's talking about.
And there wasn't any of that in this episode at all.
None.
And question about the whole university. Yeah, it obviously was rushed, because you got 2 big major story beats within 1 episode. I don't know how you cannot say that's rush, especially these are 2 big stories. These are 2 defining moments of the show. You know what I mean? When you get to Tommy, meet up with Tommy first time, and the university, because that's where you really see the bond between Ellie and Joel, on a survival aspect. And so it's like, yo, this could be like my daughter type of thing. What I'm saying is that the whole university, I didn't even think they went through a university. I felt like it was a time skip. You enter the opening of the university, the entrance, and then you just skip over to him
hospital.
getting stabbed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, you wasn't really even fighting nobody. And the thing is, they didn't even set up who are they fighting against, who was chasing, who was doing anything. How could you watch that show in good faith? I'm not saying it was bad. You can be critical, people. How can you watch that in good faith talking about, no, it was not rushed? Who are they fighting then? Forget Me Not. Forget Me Not. That's my guy, too. That's my guy. But let me know. Who were they fighting? Who stabbed them?
Yeah.
You can't even answer.
Random people.
Because it was rushed.
It was just random hunters.
Random people. It wasn't like the hunters of David's crew, because David had hunters out there. It's just
I found that whole episode felt a little bit off, to be honest with you. Like, this one thing about TV shows, why do they use different directors all the time for different episodes? Because this is a totally different director on this one.
Well,
even that first part with Grant with the Aboriginal people in the cabin, like, I don't like that was just kind of like thrown in there. It felt weird to me, that part. Shout out to Graham Greene, though. He's a legendary Canadian actor. I don't know if many people recognize him or not, but But yeah, he's pretty well known up in these parts. But anyway, I just felt like there was some tacky dialogue in that very first opening scene too.
The reason
Yo,
why I can explain the whole reason why they have different directors is because a lot of times the other directors have other obligations to something else, or sometimes they're just like, well, we want different directors to see which director is going to do an episode the best, right? So and you got to realize that like a lot of the episodes when they're built by different directors, yeah, they have some sort of their influence in it, but a lot of it has to do with the producers who are like saying, well, it has to stick to what we wrote for this, but then they also have to make it their own. So it's a really, with TV, it's so much different from film, because with filmmaking, with movies, it's, you have one director, you have one producer, more than one producer. A lot of times you have like 50 producers because no one knows how to fucking budget shit for save their life. But yeah, you just have I understand where you're coming from, Noof, on that, because I feel like it would be better if they just did like, just had one director do it. Like if Neil Druckmann just did the directing on it, it probably would have been, I think
he's doing the next episode.
I think he did. I think
You
he
need
did
more
episode.
Neil Druckmann episodes. I think somebody said it in the chat.
I think that's what
Druckmann did 2, and he's going to.
He
do
did
7.
2. Yeah, he did 2. So he should do more of that because he knows the game. He knows what it's like. He knows everything. He knows the story. They should have him doing it, especially since he's a producer on it and he's always there on set. Pretty much, it seems like.
So
they should just have him.
Sometimes you always get that producer or that director that wants to come in and put sort of like their own stamp on stuff all the time.
Yeah, it's the creative.
Let me answer Forget Me Not real quick, because that's not true. In the game, you actually know who you're fighting because you've been getting chased by that crew in the first city that you met. When you actually meet Sam and Henry.
Yes,
that crew right there, that Job in this lane of waste. If you listen to the conversations that they're talking about, it's like, yeah, I heard this one man and a girl. They've been chasing them to get revenge on those two throughout the whole the time that they're going over to the west. So that's incorrect information. The game actually explains a lot of that stuff in the game, where you're not getting that here in the TV show, which is supposed to be explaining a lot of backstory stuff, but they're not doing that when it comes to action portions in the TV show.
And it's funny because shout out to Black Mama as well. He's awesome. He says you get shot in the game, you patch it up, you keep going. He goes, you get shot in the show, they can't just keep going. You can't confuse.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
I get that, but Mamba, I got to ask you. I know you've watched The Walking Dead, and I go back to that because it's the only thing I can't use Bruce Willis films or you know what I mean. I can't use. So my point being is that, but there was like 2-3 episodes where they fought the governor and their people. Right, Daryl still lived, Rick still lived. You know what I mean? The crew was still there, intact. There's a way to do it, Mamba, where you can actually, no joke, you can do it correctly and not have Joel get like a bullet that punctures right through his entire organs. There's a way to make this work where Jay Bari said something in the chat a moment ago. Think about what he said a second ago. He said at this point, they're carrying guns the entire time. The guns are now props. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Jay's not really lying. And I'm not just saying that because Jay's here tonight. We've seen Joel carrying this gun forever. And the most he's done with it is teach Ellie how to hunt.
I mean, they are props. I mean, in the show, they are.
And are props. I know this sounds like it's being a critical thing. You guys have no idea. Like I just want to put this out there. Sunday nights are the Last of Us nights.
Right? Yeah, of course.
Like I have an entire. I do the cheese board out. I got drinks. We watched the episode. We watched the last week's before. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Call it cheat day number 2, Dark.
So fancy, Mooch.
The thing is, a lot of people are afraid to be critical of certain things. Like Last of Us, the beloved game. Everybody wants a TV show to be great, and that's why I'm so critical. Okay, I want a TV show to be great because I guarantee you this: if the TV show implemented a lot more what the game was to offer, you wouldn't hear people complain about it either. They would be like, oh, this is amazing, this is great, because you're just going with the flow as far as what they're giving you. You know what I mean? But yeah, when you're adding up the two and lining up the two, I'm not saying the TV show was bad. I'm just saying that, yo, I
Right.
want greatness on the show, and I feel like they could do much better job with the TV show than what they're doing right now. Not saying that it's a bad show. I love the show. I watch it, like Mooch said, I watch it every Sunday. But
Yeah.
there's no way you can watch episode 6 in good faith, loving the game, and be like, yo, this is great. You know,
Well,
you know what I
even-
mean? Like, in my opinion.
Well, even episode 6 was, I felt, you know, it was kind of boring, to be honest. You know, like there was moments where it was good. You know, I loved the whole him seeing Tommy thing and them seeing Jackson and stuff. That was cool. But at a certain point, I was like, okay, when are we gonna, you know, get some
So-
freaking, you know, something going on here? You know,
Yeah.
they just, I think they focused a lot of story on this one. It was just like, okay. All right. And then we get the action at the end. It was just
Okay,
like,
so let me ask you guys a question here. I'll throw the volleyball up. Whoever wants to take it, spike the volleyball down. Is this the last we saw of Tommy, or we're going to see Tommy again on this season 1? And
no,
I'm
we'll
asking
probably
you
see
that-
Tommy again. We'll probably see Tommy again
At the end.
at the end. Yeah.
So you know, spoilers. Be aware. But you know, they do head back to Tommy's at the end of 1,
Yeah.
right? So I should have thought about it in that retrospect, but I was actually just wondering if we would see the actor come through in any way, especially, you know, because here we saw University. That was quick. It was kind of quick in the game, not necessarily. There was a couple of fights at University that we ran into before Joel got.
There's no infected. Yo, I don't know what is going on with this TV show, but apparently the infected is not really like, you know, it's not nothing to be feared. You have to be in a big area to have any type of fear with the infected. You can just be mosey on down in a ranty rundown town or whatnot, and you just it's nothing really to be fair. My man walked through a whole university, and you know, I'm a shut up because people gonna think I'm hating this.
Well, no, you have a good point there, because in The Walking Dead, you had those moments of where you were in like a hospital, or you were in like a town where they were doing, there were infected there were zombies, there were something there, so they could have totally done that with this show.
But as well though, don't these infected, at least the way they set up in the show, don't they largely gravitate around areas that are highly populated by the spore vines? Like we saw in the other episode where they tread on the vine and they all awoke. Because I would imagine in northern territories where it's very cold and there's snow, that there were probably a heck of a lot less of that growth and navigation because of the weather. So you would probably see a lot more sporadic. Again, they would be in more areas, and I would imagine that town is mostly defensive against the raiders as opposed to like infected itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but like a university isn't something like, because the university, well, in the game, I don't know if it was that in the show, it was set up like a Fedra, you know, like quarantine zone, because you know the facilities and all the stuff that could be used there.
Yeah, there was a
Firefly
thing.
The thing is,
there's a Firefly thing there too. Yeah,
maybe I'm misspeaking. If I'm speaking not in what you meant, just let me know if I interpreted it wrong. But Brian, he says remote areas, they got nothing to eat. The thing about it though, Brian, is that they had situations like in episode 5 where they buried the infected for 20 plus years under there, and we saw it even in episode 2. They go to sleep, they go dormant, right? Just like fungus do, right? That's the whole thing. It goes dormant. Then once it senses, or it somehow knows that it's got something, it comes back to life. So when you look at like The Walking Dead, and using Dark's example where they had the hospitals and they had remote areas and locations that they would go into, there were rooms that people would say, you know, don't come in here, dead inside.
Yeah.
So it would be the same thing here, where you would have, like Jay was saying, at the university, you would have rooms, right, where they would be like locked up, chained up, no way they can get out, infected inside or whatever. There's just none. Now, I will say this, and I said this to you guys when we did the first show, the first week. I said this to the audience. A very delicate line that you have to walk when you do these post-apocalyptic shows is the human element, which is a real thing, right? That is definitely a threat. And then there's the infected or the zombie or the disease, right? And I think what Jay's been bringing up and the panel's been bringing up is just that we're not seeing that equilibrium. We are now seeing a lot of the human versus human. That's fine. but there needs to be that infected. You need to do that. And if you watch Walking Dead seasons 1, 2, and 3, the dead were a threat. As we got into seasons 9, 10, and 11, not so much.
Right. It was more the humans. Yeah.
You know, and I think that's also when you saw people say, I'm good with The Walking Dead. This has turned into a soap opera. You know? So that's the one thing that I said when we were watching this show. It's going to be very interesting how they do a nice, beautiful balance of the infected versus the human element. And that's right now, episode 3, 4, not so much 5. I mean, 5 had a really big with the infected, had enough of it there, I guess. Jay, you may say it came up short, but still,
it seems like they spent their budget right there on that episode with
but even,
5.
They're
just like, here, we're gonna give you guys this.
Yeah.
Like I've been trying to convey here is like I said, I understand it's not going to be a 1-to-1, but I just want to see more of the survival elements of The Last of Us. Like, they've been doing a lot of skipping as far as like 3 months later or whatnot. I understand you're not going to show every single scene or whatnot, but I would love to see you break into a supermarket and scrounging for food, looking for stuff, looking for equipment, looking for supplies and things like that. Because that builds what The Last of Us is, and I those type of aspects I'm looking forward to seeing within the TV show. But I guess people don't get different.
I think we see a lot more liberties taken with this franchise if the 3rd season of the show gets greenlit and comes out before the 3rd version of the game. Then again, it'll be much like that. I've said in a podcast the other day, it'd be kind of like the whole scenario with George R. R. Martin, where his book wasn't finished and they had to finish up the Game of Thrones. So, but right now, like I said, it's always that fine line of trying to stay very true to the material and also trying to do your own take on it. And it could be for, again, to make the show work in certain areas. It could be because of budget restraints. I mean, I think it would have been cool if there was a little more like we knew early on, even in the show, that Ellie didn't know how to swim, but we didn't really see her putting that whole. Yeah, like that would have been kind of cool too, to see her put in that compromise where like they're in the water or something like that. You know what I mean? And maybe one of these things comes up out of the water or comes out of somewhere, and then you kind of got that, oh my God, like she can't swim and now I got to fight some of these infected or something, like there needs to be more of those moments that replicate that feeling that we got from 2 when that clicker first came out. You got that sense of like, holy shit, and that's how I felt when I played the game for the first time. The first time I got to that building and we saw our first clicker and you didn't really know what they're about. And then you figured it out, right? And you're using your senses and stuff. And then you got those runners too and everything. Like that was intense in the game. And I'd like to see a little more of that sort of replicated off of the show.
Yeah,
me too. Same.
No, I think really, really good points there. The chat's really on fire too, guys. I appreciate all by the way, everything you guys are saying. I feel that the pros and cons going back and forth. I do think when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, though, we do want to see. There was a point that I think, and I want to say Persona made it when he was on the show last, and or at least I was talking. Yeah, I was talking to Persona about this. I think in week 4, and like the problem was that like let's go back to Billstown real quick, okay? Mm-hmm. Like there was the whole thing with the Raiders.
You don't want to get me started on Billstown, man.
William, that's William. That's William.
That's William. Yes. Thank you. Appreciate that, Jay. But like when the Raiders came in and attacked, that was a very simple thing. And when Bill got shot and he was brought to the table by Frank, and he's like, "Don't worry, the fence will take care of them." I got news for you. In a post-apocalyptic world, no electric fence is stopping a group of people from getting through. When you're talking about food, rations, ammo, no way. Shelter, no way. So that was really cut short. So even if you guys, I see a lot of you guys, and by the way, I respect every single one of you guys. Even if you say, hey, I saw like Jack Reeves, he says, I've seen enough infected. I don't need to have that many infected. Fine. Let's take it the other way. Like there's been the human interaction fights, the different groups are also very, very low on the action level, right? It's just not a lot. Like, why didn't we see anything happen at the dam? That could have been there. Someone just said, Mooch, there wasn't a lot going on at the university except for that one fight in the basement area. I mean, I get you, but we didn't see that either. So it's like you want to have, and I understand. Shout out also to Mamba. He goes, Mooch, good point on what you made earlier. But he goes, I think a lot of people want Joel to be John Wick, and I'm like, I don't want Joel to be John Wick.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
we want him to smash heads and do some cool stuff, but not in the way we wanted to stick to the Last of Us lore, but not go so far away from it that it makes it feel like it's kind of like they're. That's why it feels rushed, is because they're not putting in any of that stuff where it's like, oh man, that would have been great here. Like, I mean, honestly, like that whole damn thing with in episode 6 would have been amazing. Would have been awesome. I could picture how you could direct that and how you could, portray that into a live action, and it just fell short of that, right? It just didn't do it. And I was like, oh man, that would have been so cool. And then, like Jay was saying at the end, you just get that one little scene where they stab him and then that's over. And it was just like, oh man, they could have gotten, like, you could have seen Joel fighting these dudes and then and then he gets stabbed at the end, like it just, there was a lot of things that I feel like they could have done.
This is a real nitpick too, because there's one interaction that I kind of was looking forward to see in the TV show that I loved in the game, is like when Joel got impaled, right? However they wanted to do it, and they're walking away, and Ellie was like, "Can you stand up? Can you go?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he's like, "Okay then." And she's screaming at, "Okay then, let's go." You want to survive? I wanted to see that. Like it was nothing. It was nothing of the sort of that. You know what I mean? Like
that's right.
We're not expecting to see Joel as John Wick, but please believe it, Joel is a survivor. You know what I mean? Like he knows how to survive. He knows how to handle a gun. He knows how to handle weapons.
So I'm so glad, Jay, you just gave me the greatest segue into the next topic I want to talk about with you guys. Is Joel? Okay, Joel as a whole, really. So a lot of people.
That's Joel. That's Joel. That's not Joel.
Oh. Jay, you're being rough.
Let me chill for the chat, man.
Let me chill for a minute. But so Joel has come under a bit of scrutiny. So he's having panic attacks. There's the whole thing where he seems a little bit, his conversation with Tommy, which I thought the interaction with the brothers was very good. But then it got to the point where Joel was, admitting failure. He says he sleeps his dreams. He's failing. He says he basically feels like he failed maybe as a dad. He feels he
failed Sarah. That's what he's saying. He's saying
he failed Sarah. He failed Tess. I mean, he's saying, and don't get me wrong, as he's saying this, you do have to sit there and think that as you go through this post-apocalyptic world, that these things do lay on your this lays on your conscience. So there's no doubt about it. But Noof, I'll start with you on this one. Noof, do you think Joel is maybe being perceived in a way, we just said they're putting a lot of content in just 60 minutes or less. So this is a side that I didn't think, with the amount of time we have spared, that we would see this soft emotional side of Joel. Is that a
well? It is important when they get to season 2 or when they get to episode 2. And they're about to get to that scene, if that's how they choose to go down that path. They have to make sure that the audience connects with Joel as much as possible, or otherwise that scene's not going to hit us the way it did for us guys who like the game, right? I mean, that was probably one of the most shocking moments, I think, in video game history when we watched that, and we all just kind of sat there. I know I pretty much did, like, what just happened? You know what I mean? Like, whoa, like, holy crap, right? And he's a lovable character, and like I said, the actor here is doing a fantastic job with portraying his humanity, but his little bit of gruff and toughness. You're kind of like a Clint Eastwood, you know what I mean? Like, he's got that humanity, but he's got that gruff side too, when he lets the anger flow. And I love the conversation he has with Tommy as well, where he's kind of breaking down and realizing, like, what does my life amounted to? Like, I've lost the people I cared about. Here I got this little girl, which you can start to see that he's starting to really like her and care for her. And I love how they got those little bits like that, that whole thing when she's reading the joke book and stuff, and he's trying his hardest not to laugh, and eventually starts to let go. And that's what's making it tough. We see how he wants to walk away for her, not really because he wants to go away. I think he's just afraid he's got to put up with one more loss, and he's got to be there for it. It's out of sight, out of mind, right? And then he's talking to Tommy. He's like, "Am I weak now? Because the stuff that I used to do, like you said, like how he's freezing up and stuff. I just love this side of the humanity, which sometimes in video games, this is the part that we sometimes miss in games because they can't convey it as well. Now, Naughty Dog has done a great job, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when it comes to games, Naughty Dog is the best in the industry for conveying facial expression and emotion through their characters. And
Yeah.
other video games are not on their level. And that's what makes their level of storytelling a lot better than competing developers, because they're really good at that. You know what I mean? And that storytelling. So I think they're doing a pretty good job. And I like what they're trying to do here with Joel, because again, to make that moment happen and to make it impactful, and that's what they need. They got to make sure that the fans who are watching the show, especially people who don't know nothing about the game, they're really getting that attachment to Joel and Ellie, and they know the consequences coming down the pipe here.
No, great answer. And shout out to, I want to say it was Captain Ply. Captain, the reason I bring that question up is just what I do on my second or third watch of the show. I watch each episode at least two times, sometimes three. I try to pick out some of the differences that going through the game 4 times and then going through the shows, what I see. And the reason I bring the question up is it's just, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, listen, I haven't played The Last of Us now. It was God, last generation sometime. So my point being is
you didn't get part 1?
Part 1. No, I'm playing part 1.
You're playing part 1 now?
Yeah, I'm playing part 1. But I'm honestly probably about, where am I at on part 1? I don't even think I'm at Tommy's part yet. I've been kind of playing it and piecing it through again. But my point being is that Joel wasn't shown this way in the game. Joel was, let's be honest, Captain says, is there a problem with Joel? You know, Joel's being soft. He's not soft. I'm saying Joel was just really hard in the game.
Joel was rigid.
I mean, even in 2, in The Last of Us Part 2, when he was trying to have those sentimental moments with Ellie, remember with the guitar and all that stuff?
Right, yeah.
I almost feel like he was like having a hard time even being nice then. Yeah. You know, I mean, and things were okay then. They were in a protected area. They were eating good. There was civilization. There was farming. There was livestock. There was everything, you know, and he still was hard. You know, he's tough. So, I mean, it's just kind of like his mentality, his whole being was just tough.
The thing is, I like the scene. It showcases a different side of Joel.
I actually didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
He can open up and express his feelings, especially to somebody like his brother. That's his brother.
Yes.
So I like what they were doing there, but you know, I see the chat, you know, what they're doing, and everybody's making this excuse as far as like, oh, Joel is human and he's not John Wick and all that stuff. But before the episodes came out and the show, you know, is run, a lot of people was anticipating which episode, Mooch.
Oh, which one you think was going to be the wildest?
Yes. A lot of people before the show was running, they were anticipating the last episode. No, the last episode in the hospital.
The hospital. Okay, I was gonna say David.
Oh, I can't wait to see Joe run through that hospital and bang, 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 bang. All of a sudden, everybody making all these excuses about, oh my God, he's not John Wick. He's a human being. He got a soft side. But I'm pretty sure everybody's anticipating him going bang, bang, bang to go save Ellie. What? So if that episode he kills 2 people, y'all in the chat are gonna be satisfied with that, because you're gonna be like, hey, I mean, he's human.
Shout out to Broken.
Y'all not listen. I promise you, and I love you guys. I love your opinions and all that, but you guys are not being honest with yourselves when it comes to this show. I know it for a fact.
Jay makes some points. We were talking about this show before it aired, and that was a lot of what we discussed. Shout out to BG. BG, if you want to get in on this, you let me know. I'll shoot you a link. It is a good point. I mean, Dark, what did you think about this? I do want to agree real quick, piggyback with what Bari said. I actually really enjoyed the Joel and Tommy scenes. I thought that was good. I even liked that they had a bit, because there was a rift between those two, right? Over the 20 years. We got into some of that when Joel was telling the story to Ellie and all that in the car, and how he was like he always felt like he had to serve and join a new crew and be a part of a team. He could never be like a loner, kind of like how Joel was for a bit there. But at the same time, outside of that rift, you could see now a little bit of that angst, right? Which was basically Tommy saying to a certain extent here, I have it right here. I actually have the quote. Just because life stopped for you doesn't mean it has stopped for me. And that's ultimately
that was a gut punch. That was a gut punch right there.
That one hurt. That one hurt.
Even I felt, I was like, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, what did you think, Dark, though? I mean, overall, the conversation with Tommy and seeing this, you are seeing a much more human side to Joel Miller.
I think Joel's being a little bitch.
Oh, well, there you go, Dark. That's one way to answer it.
No. Honestly, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought, I like Pedro Pascal, and he's a fantastic actor. So like, and then the other guy who plays his brother Tommy, I forgot his Gabriel Luna.
Yeah,
He's really good too. So it was like, their chemistry together is really good. So it really, made it felt emotional, and it was good. So I enjoyed it. I felt like, there was that moment of like, like, to see, it was nice to see his humanity, but at the same time I was all like, oh man, in the game he was such a bad motherfucker, right? Like, he was just such a freaking awesome, character, and then like all of a sudden he just like, then all of a sudden in the show he just changes, flips the switch to like being like this softy, which is understandable because he's
Yeah.
with his brother. But I felt like, there's these moments where Joel is conflicted, and it's almost as if he just let everything out at that time when he was visiting with his brother. And I'm all like, and then the next scene, like after that, where Ellie and him are going at each other about something, about the thing with Sarah, about her and Sarah, and her not being Sarah. That was emotional too. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like the next day, he's just like back to old Joel again. And I was just like, really? Like, like why?
Yeah.
Like makes no sense.
Yo,
like,
Dark Artemis, you make a perfect point, because
it makes
people
no sense.
saying, "Oh, it's not a 1-to-1 for the game," but I
Yeah.
feel like a video game portion would help that relationship. Like, oh, if you went through a struggle of surviving through a raider or clicker or infected, you was like, "Oh man, I really do care for this girl." Instead,
Right.
it was just a blank. Oh, let me just switch up. I went to sleep and I woke up. Now it's just like, all right, kid, come on.
I'm gonna take
know what I
you,
mean?
but
Yeah.
you're gonna listen to everything I have to say, kind of thing. And it's just like, okay.
Can you guys fill in the blank for me? How did Ellie know that conversation happened? I know she was outside. She left the movie theater.
She left. She just left the movie theater, walked outside, and that's all we saw of her.
That's all we
Yeah.
saw.
That's it. And
Yeah, 'cause
we didn't see that
was
she was looking
perceived
through the
that she was
window.
listening in. Yeah.
And
Right.
she was looking through the window somehow or something like that. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
that was the one
come
thing.
on.
And I mean, I like that they had her up on the windowsill there. That's right from out of the game too. That was part with
Yeah.
Tommy too. That was when she ran away. Remember, they were in that house. There was a fight in that house.
Yeah, that scene was like a 1-to-1.
But
You know what I mean?
sorry, by the
Very
way,
close,
certain
yeah.
little scenes certain little lines they missed out, but it was like
was that a diaphragm that she had in her hands?
When
she came out of the shower, she was reading instructions. She had a weird little thing in her hands.
Yeah,
and she goes, "Oh, this is gross or disgusting."
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was
Well,
just like,
remember,
is that
she
what I
also-
think it is? I was like, that's weird.
Well, they made reference to it because back, I believe it was episode 5. Was it episode 5 which was the episode where it started, where we were at Joel's like his stash house where he was looking for, remember the episode started where Ellie found the infected down in the basement, crushed in, and she basically put the knife through his eye.
Yeah,
she had the
I think
tampons
that
in her
was
hand.
that was 3.
That was 3. That was 3. Thank you. That was before Bill. That's correct. So my point being is that
4,
they're alluding that this is that part of the world where it's like things we all take for granted now. Things like we just have every day. You just go to your cabinet, you pull out your medicine, you pull out this, you pull out that. It's not
it makes
there.
sense. It makes sense.
It's funny you mention that, because one of the little things that I take away from this whole thing, and it was in episode 5, is you see how the little fella, little Sam, he's playing with. Remember and they were really popular in my day. That little thing looks almost like an Etch-a-Sketch you had there with the little charcoal pad. And I used to remember playing with those as a kid, and I'm like, man, I bet you most kids today wouldn't have a clue what the heck that was.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, like, even just going back and playing with crayons, one of the most basic coloring tools, you know what I mean? Like all of these messages, and then they're reading notes. They're reading notes on paper. When they're in the hospital, they see that list, and you kind of start going like, we take a lot of shit for granted in our lives these days. Stuff that most of us never. Most people don't even use notepads now. It's all on a PC or it's on their cell phones. And now all of a sudden, you notice one thing in this game. There's virtually, or in this show or in the game in particular, virtually no cell phones or no cell phones, is it? Like nobody has one.
Well, I think it was 2003 that it started. So I mean, we had cell phones back then, but it wasn't like prevalent like it
It
is
wasn't
now.
the smartphone that we're
Yeah,
dealing
it
with
wasn't.
today.
Yeah, it wasn't a
That's a good
smartphone.
point.
Right.
He did have in the first episode that like the Nextel one from back in the day.
But that could happen today too, and it just goes to show you how the basic things that we always started out, we take for granted in our own lives today, even in this show, become very apparent that, you know, don't crap on the old ways alive and the old traditions, because one of these days, you never know, in our own lives we might need them. So you know, that's why they say, like, some people now, they don't teach their kids really how to write properly anymore, and it's like, you know, one of these days they might have to write actually something.
It is. That's the part for. I don't care if we're talking about Walking Dead. I don't care if we're talking about The Last of Us. The one thing that really always gets me so. I'm just very interested in how the world. We would all go back almost 100 years. You know what I mean? You take electricity away, take away all the stuff that we're even doing right now on this podcast, and you go back to living. You know, where you have to get up, and when you get up every day, it's not about earning a check. It's about living.
Right.
Anyone get a kid or relative in the house, the moment the internet goes down, it's like their life is over. Oh my God, there's no internet. I'm gonna freaking die.
Shout out to Forget Me Not. Appreciate it. Super Chat's working. It's a miracle. He says, with the more human stuff, and when Ellie was reading Bill's letter, I feel like they really are building up to Joel killing everyone in the hospital. So basically, Forget Me Not is saying, I'll tell you right now, you're gonna see that big ending. I don't know.
I got a problem with that episode, with the third episode, and I never get to talk about it. But
What do you got, Art?
That episode was the shittiest episode I've ever seen in my life. Because it wasn't the story. It wasn't about Bill himself and Frank. It wasn't about that. What it was about is that they literally cut his life short. They cut him out of the entire universe of The Last of Us when they killed him off like that. When they just killed him off in that one episode, and we don't even see Ellie and Joel interacting with Bill, and the banter and the you know, the camaraderie with each other, and Bill being like, "Oh, you're just a fucking kid, you know, like you're just a kid."
You know, and it's funny because Dark, just to piggyback on that, great point. Because think about this, Jay and Noof. This Dark really hit something right there. When I saw that you know, Bill was going to put the tons of medication basically to let Frank peacefully go into sleep, I thought we were going to get an angry, you know, because then he would have been alone. No one's usually happy after their loved one passes. I thought that's when we were going to see Joel and Ellie come back.
Right.
That irritable Bill that we saw in the game. That would have had a little bit of that resentment built in that only he would know about, which he did, and we learned about later when he told us about Frank, right? I thought that's when we would have seen all that. And you're right. They did take that Bill away from us, and they could have very easily had that episode be another 20 minutes or a bit of the next episode. Episode, and had it so when Joel and Ellie showed up, yes, they still got in. They still knew the code. They get in there, and there's Bill. And he's in his house, and maybe he's devastated. Maybe he's destroyed. He's not the same Bill, but he's irritable. He's grouchy, but he still worked with them. And that would have been cool. I don't know why they went that route. They could have done both. Go ahead, Jay.
Episode 3 is the worst episode so far, in my opinion, because all the things that we praise for what these actors and actresses are doing, they didn't convey that with episode 3. Episode 3 was just a total rewrite of a character. We sit down here, we praise Bella Ramsey and we praise Pedro Pascal because their portrayal of the video game character is on point. But you know, with episode 3, that's not Bill. You know, Frank, you know, they can make Frank whoever it is because we didn't really get to meet Frank or know Frank. In the game, and that part was cool. I had no issues with them building up that relationship as far as like, here's how the relationship was before Frank did what he did, or you know, whatever happened, you know, they died or whatnot. But there was nothing of Bill that we knew that we could say like, this is a great portrayal of Bill. It wasn't that, because that wasn't Bill. That's why I keep telling people that's not Bill. That's Billy. That's William. You know what I mean?
And the sad thing is that, you know,
William,
the guy that they got to play Bill is such a fantastic actor too, right?
Yeah,
Like
he
he's
is.
such a
He is.
fantastic actor, and he could have played that role so well. And they didn't do it. They didn't do it. They were like, "Oh," and that's my problem with Neil Druckmann. I watched after the episodes. I don't know if you guys watch after the episodes where they had the trailer and then they had the behind the scenes stuff. I love
seen
watching
some
that
of 'em.
stuff. I
And
love
they have a little
watching the behind
podcast
the
and all
scenes.
that. Yep.
I wish they would
Yeah,
have
they have
that
a little
on
thing.
right after the airing, and they didn't do it. Like the HBO shows like
Yeah.
4 episodes back to back. It just annoys me.
Yeah. The when they do that and he's like, well, we're just changing stuff where we feel like we could change it, and and I'm like, yeah, but you're changing things that there's some things that you're changing that you don't need to change, Neil. You don't need to change it. It's good what it is, where it is
Very
in the
good.
game. It's
Very good.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then you're changing it, and it's just like,
Well, again, some of
oh,
the
man.
changes, I hate to say it, but some of the changes made a lot of these shows is to please different audiences that have nothing to know about the game.
Well,
They're trying to, that whole, we got to cover all of our bases, or, you know what I mean?
yeah, but
I was a little bit upset with 3 because Billstown is like one of my favorite parts, and Bill's like one of my. I love Bill, that character. I think he's a dope character because he was such a contrast to what Joel is turning into be. He was what Joel was. You know what I mean? And you missed that. You missed that with episode 3 because now you don't even have the character existing in the world no more. The character's dead.
Right.
It's funny though. Like there is, and this is kind of a rhetorical. If you guys want to comment on it, you can. But we talk about this every week on this show, and that is there's the millions of gamers that are watching this, and then there's the millions of people who have never picked up the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've always asked that question to the panel. I said, "Do you think we is this show doing a service to maybe people who haven't played the game that are
it totally is.
I think it is. I think it's hitting a home run with those folks, and I think that's why I like having this show, the reaction show, is because there's a lot to kind of dive into. If you love the game as much as everybody on this panel and past week's panels, I know that there's so much to dissect. And guys, by the way, in the chat, I want to say, you don't understand, the 4 guys that are on this show right now, we love the show.
Yeah,
we love the show. Like, I can't wait for next week's show. And next week's show, we should kind of talk about, even though I promised these guys it'd only go an hour, and I'm mooching.
Hey, I'm loving this. I'm
mooching their time. But we've got the DLC, the whole Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
excited for that.
Right? I think this is going to get a lot of background, and I think it's also going to get us a lot of. I think it's going to be a lot of action too.
They're following the timeline as far as how the game is. Like Left Behind is between the part where winter and the university and spring. That is Left Behind. So they're actually on point with the timeline with the game, even though everybody keeps saying it's not 1-to-1 to the game.
No, the timeline's right there.
Ahead, and that's the thing. It doesn't need to be 1-to-1 to the game, but it also has to have some sort of elements of the game in it to make, I think, because there are moments in it where I feel like as the person who played the game and is watching the show, they missed some points in there where it was like, well, this part in the game, this is what happens, and you have to explain that to the people that you're watching with, and it's just like, yeah, you guys missed out on that if you haven't played the game. It's like, oh man, you guys missed out on this or missed out on that you didn't get to see. And I think we're a little bit, we're a little bit more biased towards the game because of the fact that we've played it so many times and played it in different iterations. I mean, played it on the PS3, played it on the PS4, played it on the PS5, and it's just, we're so invested in the game that, I do have my gripes with the show, and I'm going to express those gripes. I'm not going to stray away from that.
No, that's a good point. I think you really drive that home. Shout out to Blaze 4K2 in the chat. I see all you guys. A lot of people really saying I'm enjoying the show.
I am too. Yeah.
So am I. I really am. So, yeah, right. Shout out to Blaze. He said, "Barry, look at a snack." I love it. Shout out to Blaze. So
looking like a snack. Oh man.
So I gotta say, BG was on the show twice, and BG really did a good layout of how he thought the episodes were gonna go. And shame on me, I don't remember if he put this one in there. Episode 7 going completely to the DLC, right? It looks like it's going to eat up a lot of episode 7, if not all of it.
Yeah.
How does that hamper right now? Because that means David gets 8 and the
Mhm.
hospital's 9.
No, 10. Because
Oh,
there's
10
10
episodes,
episodes.
9
There's
episodes.
They're doing 10 episodes. So
Okay, so
we still have 3 episodes left, or well.
How would you
4
guys see them
episodes.
getting broken down then?
Oh man, I would say probably the DLC would be the 7th episode, and then we get to David and his group, and then probably the killing of David will be in episode 8 or something like that, or 9. Probably be in episode 9, and then we get to the hospital in episode 10.
The thing is, with Dave group, they're going to have to create obviously they probably have it already, but like I said, David group has been chasing them throughout the whole country. You know what I mean? But now you're going to have to create like a new storyline as far as like, why or how did they end up meeting? Which, you know, they'd end up meeting because Ellie's looking for food or whatnot. But they're going to have to do a whole new storyline, creating David's, you know, group.
Or are they even gonna do David's David in the show?
Well, they
That's
definitely,
I think they
they
after David,
definitely are.
but we're going to see how they implemented the crew and, you know, what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So I just looked it up because the chat was backing me up on this. There's 9 episodes.
Is there?
10. Yeah.
I could have
Yep,
sworn.
that's what
I
I read.
I just
9.
looked it up. It says 9.
Yep.
I thought it was 9. So that's my point. So if you have a situation where you've got 7 is Riley, so 8's David.
I don't think 7 is going to be only the DLC. They're probably going to set up the end.
Okay? Just flashbacks.
It's going to be flat, similar
flat.
to what we seen with episode 3. Episode 3 was full of flashbacks, but you know, there still was, you know, current day and stuff going on.
Yes.
I think they're going to mix it like that.
Okay, that would make sense because they are. I mean, essentially, in the hypothetical sense, they're running out of time.
Yeah.
Right. In the next episode, I believe. Shout out to the chat who's really been doing a phenomenal job. But I think the next episode 7 is only an hour or less than an hour.
How you guys get the time?
I think it's an hour.
If you can actually.
If you go on IMDb, they have it too.
Yeah, I'm looking here.
Yeah,
Here it is,
episode 6 at a runtime on my TV when I'm watching it, 59 minutes and 10
I got it
seconds.
right
But
here.
you also got to remember they add the trailer for the end, and then they also add that little podcasting behind the scenes stuff.
Episode 7 is 56 minutes. Episode 8 is 51 minutes. And now, guys, put your seatbelt on. You're not going to like this. Episode 9 is 43 minutes.
What?
Jeez,
Oh
wow.
my god, dude!
Yo, I don't want to hear nobody in the chat complaining because you guys said Joel ain't John Wick. He is not a superhero. So if he killed 2 people in that hospital and keep it moving, you should be happy.
So that means episode 9 that is going to be like a half hour long because of the fact that they're going to have their freaking
See,
behind the
he
scenes
hasn't
stuff.
killed a lot of people, but he's killed a lot of infected, and those guys are technically already dead. So there you go.
I mean, that is short. I have to
short,
watch
yeah.
it before I really discuss it or break it down. But that does come off as short. I mean, 43 minutes. It's an episode of Seinfeld. I think that there's a lot more to cover at the end of this game. So I don't. That was a big. Persona said it best. I don't know why these weren't. I mean, 90 minutes is what I think it needed. I know a lot of you guys in the chat may not agree with me, but 60 was mandatory.
Well, if it's
and
43, it's gonna be a hot episode. I think it won't be a whole lot of dragging its ass. Let me tell you that much.
I think they should. I think they should at least make them at least an hour and 10 minutes, an hour, and just to get the show to have that full hour, and then they have the ending where they have the trailer, and then the
last episodes would be like the
behind the
longest
scenes
one.
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Right,
we'll see.
exactly.
Yeah, the last one should be at least like an hour and 30 minutes, or maybe even
Again, not to keep doing this.
2 hours.
You guys know I'm just a Walking Dead, but even the Walking Dead, like it was on TV. Those were like an hour and 25 minutes on cable.
Yeah.
You know, where
This
HBO
doesn't have any commercials. Those have actual
makes up
commercials.
their own time. They do whatever they want.
Exactly.
So I don't. And I don't know how much of this was. It would be interesting to hear it. And you know, it's funny because anytime you have like a Neil Druckmann, Neil's probably one of the more honest ones that actually take to a microphone and comment. But like, you know, I would be interested to hear how he was. Was it he collaborating? Was he okay with these 43-minute episodes?
It seems like it. It seems
You
like
have to be, right?
I
You
mean,
have to have signed off on it.
I mean, he is a producer on the show, so I mean, he has
Mhm.
the say to be like, yeah, you guys can't do that. So it's definitely because he's the boss essentially, on the show.
Yeah.
Since he's a producer, so he has the no to be like, yeah, no, we can't do that, or yeah, that's a good enough time frame. Yeah, if that episode has one or two people getting killed, getting popped in the head, and then and then they get to the doctor's office, and then he just kills everybody, and it's over. I'm
And
just
then
gonna
there's
be
the
like,
drive, and then there's
yeah,
that serious
yeah. I'm gonna be
conversation
like,
with Ellie and
Yo,
Joel.
if you guys are saying that 40-something minutes, something is going to be a lot of action in there because that's what the whole
last part of it.
season
Yeah.
has been, showcasing us. Yeah, you're gonna have the action there, but it's gonna be those quick,
Mhm.
type of scenes. But we'll see.
Yeah. No, outstanding show, guys. And like I said, I try to keep the show generally to an hour, but it's been about an hour and a half every week. What can I say? Great show tonight, man. Outstanding.
Yeah.
We really covered a good amount of it. Everything that I had here, we basically went over. I got all of my notes out. Is there any topic or question you guys wanted to discuss before we do outros? I gotta say, it was an honor to speak this with you guys. And by the way, guys, I do want to reiterate again to the audience that I can't wait for next Sunday. Like,
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Sundays.
I've watched last night's. I watched twice. I'll probably watch it one more time again before we get to 7. So I do love it. The critiques are coming from somebody that adored the game, and that's what I'm hearing right now in my headset from Jay, from Noof, from Dark, and visibly from Persona. Saw Persona. Shout out to Iceman too in the chat. I see Iceman.
And there's moments in there where I'm like, I have to pull myself back from being the gamer, right? I have to pull myself back and be like, yeah, that's right. I'm not playing the game. I'm watching the show.
You said it so well earlier in the
yeah.
show. You said it so well. You said, the change, you don't have the problem with the changes, but then there's things that you didn't have to change or that you could keep from the game that you didn't have to alter.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's just so many of those things.
Hey,
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
So if you guys think I'm annoying with this, man, you don't want to hear my thoughts like Marvel or DC, man. I'm a nerd.
Can we now?
I would love to hear your thoughts on Marvel and DC.
Can we petition though that Naughty Dog Studios and Sony and HBO now make an Uncharted show and cast Nathan Drake, the real, Nathan Fillion is Nathan Drake, the real Nathan Drake?
I think he's too old to play that character.
That'd be awesome. He'd be awesome for a TV show, man.
I think it could totally work.
Dude, look at him in The Rookies. He still looks and sounds fantastic, man.
That's true. He does still look really good.
He could pass it off, no problem. He could definitely do it.
Yeah, no,
that'd be a cool ass show to watch, and like every season it's just about going to a new if they did it, go into a new treasure or something like that.
Yeah, well, so you say that with Philippe or whatever his name is, he could be doing the later years of Nathan Drake, whereas of course, you've got Tom Holland already casted as doing maybe the younger years. We've had that. I mean, Uncharted 3 starts with a very young look at Drake, Nathan, right? And then we also saw younger Nathan Drake as well as in Uncharted 4. So there's definitely, I mean, those are going farther back than Tom Holland's character, but you're getting my point. Right. We've seen different eras of Drake. So my biggest problem, I didn't think Tom Holland was that bad. I actually didn't. I didn't like the casting for Sully.
Oh god, dude.
Nathan Fillion wants to be Nathan Drake so bad that he actually hired a production company to make a 15-minute movie on YouTube.
He did.
I don't know if you guys watched it, but it was amazing.
Awesome. It was
freaking amazing. Even had what's his name, Stephen Lang as Sully.
Yep.
It was friggin' amazing. Like that's what you call dedication when you pay people to literally make a movie style production to basically show the studios this is why I want to be a character. Say he wants to be Nathan Drake the same way friggin' Dave Bautista wants to be Marcus. I was just Phoenix.
Gonna say, but you know what? I wonder if that in Dark would be the one that could answer this. Is that's like a turnoff for these Hollywood studios? They don't want to be told who to cast. They don't want the actor. You better call me.
Yeah, it's usually what happens is like if since Mark Wahlberg was already tied to the Uncharted franchise, they almost had to give him a role, and he figured, well, since I'm too old to play Drake,
right?
Why don't I get to play Sully? And you guys cast and plus he was a producer on it, so he's the boss, so he gets to say like, hey,
Well, I heard they're making another they're making another Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they're hiring Madonna for the next Leatherface.
Oh yeah, well they should.
And then Noof's got to get a jab in there somewhere. Guys, outstanding show. Shout out to Ryan Landis. He says the Order 1886. That'd be a show I'd watch. No
That'd
kidding.
be a cool show.
I'd watch
That
that
would be cool,
too.
yeah.
Right? The
Because
werewolf.
they could go into different things.
Oh,
Like they
shit,
could go into, they could expand on the game.
That's a wide open story. That's something
Yeah.
where the game didn't dictate anything, really. I mean,
Right.
yeah, they have the round table, they have the Knights of the Round Table, they have things like that. But at the same time, the character development, everything, the world's their oyster. They can do whatever they want there.
That'll be a big budgeted show.
Yeah, it would have.
You know what they got to do? They got to green light a sequel first, Jay. They need to do
I
that.
don't think they need to do that.
But let me go in reverse order here. I want to say thanks again to the chat. Thank you to everybody here. The great Dark Anonymous. Dark, let people know where they can find you, buddy. And thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, man. You guys can find me on Twitter, Dark Autumns. You can also find me on Xbox and PlayStation at the same name. As always, Mooch, it's been a blast, man. I always love podcasting with you, man. It's always fun. And Jay and Noof, man, you guys are the best. I love podcasting with you guys too, man. It's always fun getting on these podcasts, man. I love doing this stuff. So.
No, it's nice too. We really, it's funny because sometimes Crossfire will go like this past week, 2.5 hours. The week before that went 3 hours. Those are long podcasts.
Try being on GRG, man. It goes for like 3 hours.
You guys are 3 hours. That's the minimum. That's the standard. That is the standard. Oh, shout out to you guys. Shout out to K-Mega. But you guys are awesome. But like I say, it's nice to be able to get on, cut it up, have some great dialogue, some great conversation. I love the difference of opinion. That's the one thing I've always loved, whether it be Crossfire or this here. Jay coming on and telling you guys to put your seatbelt on. I got some opinions for you. I got news for you. I was ready to go. Right. Great Noof Nukem. Noof, let everybody know where they can find you, buddy. Appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for the invite. It's always great when I can answer the signal. I don't get a whole lot of Fridays off for sure, and this is a rare Monday as well. So, again, thanks so much, especially because the time zones don't always work out for us. That's one of the key things. But anyway, when I'm not hanging out with you fantastic folks, you can find me on Sunday mornings with Good Morning Xbox on my YouTube channel at 9 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. Mountain Time. It's a good little show, Xbox-centric, no console or BS. Just, we just talk about the news of the week and try to bring a little bit of positivity in wherever possible with a fantastic little group of characters, and that's about it. Otherwise, streaming some games on Tuesday nights nowadays. So that's about it. Thanks so much for coming out. A great chat as always. And Dark Autos, Jay Barry, was a pleasure. Had a lot of fun on this one. And Mooch, thanks again. Thanks for having me.
Always, Noof. Great to have you here. And the great Jay Barry. Jay, listen, outstanding to have you here. Looking forward to What's Up PlayStation this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, buddy. My Saturday wasn't the same, but want to say that, on Crossfire, we gave you a special shout out. I always like to keep it very sentimental and short because it's family, but want to let you know that prayers and thoughts were with you over the weekend as you spent some time with family, but want to say that we are excited for Whoops to come back on Saturday morning. So, Jay, thanks for being here tonight, man. It means the world to me to have you. Love your dedication to gaming. And yes, I will see you in the VR world Wednesday evening.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it was, like I said, very tough couple of weeks, but we maintain it. We moving on. And Whoops will return this Saturday. It's going to be a very, very VR centric episode. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of fun stuff planned for the chat. And we appreciate the support that we get when it comes to What's Up PlayStation podcast. But yeah, man, I enjoyed this episode, Mooch. We got a double whammy in here with episode 5 and 6. And it's always cool to talk to people and have difference of opinions. It will be boring. Everybody disagree with everything. Everybody can have
100%.
Different opinions and speak on it respectfully. But man, like I said, I've been enjoying the Last of Us TV show. But the things that I love, I'm very critical for. I always find it funny when people call me like a fanboy and things like that. What I know, like when people call me a fanboy, you ain't listening to what I'm saying because I'm very critical for everything that I love. You know what I mean? And Last of Us is a show that I love. So yeah, I'm not just going to accept anything what they give. Yeah, I want to see certain things improve. Like, yeah, I did play the video game, so yeah, I want video game implementations. So that's just what it is. But I appreciate you guys, man. Thanks for inviting me, and enjoy the rest of your night, man.
Awesome, Jay. Thanks again. Special shout out. I'm just rolling through real quick. Shout out to Blaze 4K. Shout out to Jack Reeves. See you guys here. Ryan Landis, Apex. So many great people stop by the show. The ArchWarAngel. So many Mooch Maniac family members. Guys, please remember, we will be back Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time over there for Crossfire. Outstanding show. If you missed it, we did our pre PSVR. This upcoming week will also be a bit of VR centric, but we've got a lot of gaming news to cover as well. Lots of games coming out in the next 2 weeks. We'll be discussing all of that and then some. Guys, we're going to take you out with the beat that we started with. Love it. Shout out to C-Note Matthews Jr. again for the amazing music score he's been putting together week in and week out. So with that, guys, we'll see you next Monday here and Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern on Crossfire. Guys, enjoy your night and good night.